Today, our world faces unprecedented environmental, social, and economic challenges. The Sustainable Development Agenda has never been more critical. The International Civil Aviation Organization, working with its 191 member states and in close collaboration with the air transport industry, is totally committed to addressing head-on these complex and interrelated challenges. This involves setting standards, policies, and guidance to enhance aviation safety, security, environmental protection, and the overall sustainability of the air transport sector. It also means providing an essential coordinating role between governments and industry. With more than 30 million commercial scheduled flights a year, operating from some 3,700 airports on all continents, air transport is fundamental to the economic, social, and environmental development of our global society. The industry directly employs 6 million people worldwide and supports millions more. 2.6 billion passengers travel by air each year, and more than 35% of goods by value are carried on passenger and cargo aircraft. It represents about 8% of the world's gross domestic product. Total aviation accounts for 2% of global CO2 emissions, of which 60% is from international flights. It is also one of the world's fastest-growing industries, with projected annual growth of 4.7% for the foreseeable future, despite the current worldwide economic situation. As the industry grows, so too does its environmental impact. Ensuring that air transport keeps reducing its emissions while continuing to benefit society in what the sustainability challenge is all about. With so many airlines, airports, air navigation service providers, and countless other stakeholders, this is not an easy task, but one that ICAO has been successfully leading for decades. Aircraft today are at least 70% more fuel efficient and 75% quieter than they were 40 years ago. Aviation also has a positive impact on social development, educational, cultural, and political exchanges, tourism, emergency aid, and disaster relief. The paralysis of the air transport system in Europe following the 2010 eruption of the Aviation volcano was a dramatic demonstration of the role played by air transport in our day-to-day lives. The democratization of air travel is one of the wonders of our time. Larger and more powerful aircraft fueled the first great phase of widespread accessibility to air travel in the 1960s and 1970s. This was followed by political and regulatory change in the 80s and finally sophisticated air travel tools beginning in the 90s. Computerized booking systems dramatically changed air travel, allowing for different passengers to pay different fares and for airlines to optimize their efficiency. For example, a New York-Paris flight in the 1930s cost the equivalent of $12,000 in today's terms. Now you can fly the same route for less than $1,000. The price of a ticket is influenced by a number of factors, including ticket type, airline, airline alliance, hub airports, en route air traffic control, and other applicable charges. The costs of using infrastructure and services are sustained by fees passed on to the passengers. In some cases, these may account for nearly half of the total ticket price. The net profit margin of global airlines in 2010 was only 2.7% and is forecast to decline in the future. In 2012, people from all over the world will meet up in Rio to participate in the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, known as the Rio +20 Conference. The following stories illustrate the journey of 4 of these participants. Luigi is an engineer based in Rome. He intends to take a train to the airport, but encounters a train strike. He therefore chooses to drive, but gets stuck in a traffic jam on the way to the airport. Although he left quite early, he's beginning to panic. Will he arrive in time? Running through the check-in desk and security, helped by very efficient staff, he manages to get on the plane just a few minutes before the gate closes. He can relax at last, away from the noise of the city in the beautiful sunset among the clouds. Joanna, an Angolan student, is going to Rio on an international policy exchange program. Her parents are anxiously seeing her off. She comforts them, assuring them that she will be happy with her new family. Her father is a former exchange student, and he recalls his own voyage a few decades ago. When he crossed the Atlantic, it was by ship, which took over a week. In Rio, the host family comes to the airport to welcome Joanna and take her home. She is ready to embark on this rich cultural experience and will take the opportunity to participate in the Rio +20 conference. Arnab, a government official from New Delhi, will represent India in the Rio conference. He is taking his family with him, and they will first stop in New York to meet their son in university there and to attend a family wedding. He reviews the travel options in advance of departure to plan the routings and prices for the family trip. After 2 days in New York, he flies to Rio for the conference while his family returns home to India. Chiang, a delegate from the China Chamber of Commerce, is going to Rio to build relationships with other companies working in the green economy. The aim of the trip is to find prospective partners interested in new renewable energy sources and technologies oriented towards sustainable development. These stories illustrate the global nature of air transport. Hundreds of airlines transport billions of passengers from all nationalities from thousands of airports in a seamless manner. This is made possible due to the more than 10,000 international standards and operating procedures agreed through ICAO. This structured, harmonized air transport system brings people together from different cultures and countries, making the global village possible. As a specialized UN agency responsible for international aviation, ICAO has been at the forefront of developing global solutions for a sustainable future for international aviation. At the most recent ICAO assembly in October 2010, the willingness of ICAO and its member states to take concrete steps towards addressing CO2 emissions from international aviation was manifest. The resolution adopted at the 37th Assembly includes global aspirational goals for the international aviation sector of improving annual fuel efficiency by 2% and stabilizing its global CO2 emissions at 2020 levels. A global CO2 certification standard for aircraft is expected by 2013. The Assembly also agreed on guiding principles for the design and implementation of market-based measures and decided to explore a global scheme for international aviation. A de minimis provision for the application of market-based measures was also agreed to exempt states with small contributions to global air traffic. States and industry are working together through ICAO on the development and global implementation of a basket of mitigation measures to reduce CO2 emissions from international aviation to meet the collective global goals while ensuring the sustainable development of the sector. Sustainable alternative fuels for aviation offer one of the most exciting and promising opportunities for reducing aviation emissions. Considerable work is being undertaken to develop sustainable drop-in biofuels that will not require changes to aircraft or in fuel delivery infrastructure. This has the potential to be a game changer in reaching global aviation emission goals. In 2009, ICAO established a global framework on aviation and alternative fuels, a platform for sharing information on more than 300 best practices and initiatives to facilitate the development and deployment of sustainable alternative fuels for aviation on a global scale. In 2011, as part of its preparations for Rio+20, ICAO held a workshop on aviation and sustainable alternative fuels, providing a forum for the exchange of information on the state of worldwide activities. Global trials and tests are ongoing with numerous airlines, manufacturers, and fuel companies. The use of drop-in biofuels in commercial flights is now a reality. Technological aspects are proven to be viable. We now need to address the reduction of costs and scalability of biofuels. The development and deployment of sustainable alternative fuels for aviation is a win-win-win solution. It addresses the three pillars of sustainable development: environmental, social, and economic, by reducing net greenhouse gas emissions, improving local air quality, and providing a new source of employment. In addition, alternative fuels can help stabilize fuel price volatility, while providing a source of economic development in non-traditional fuel-producing regions of the world. The definition of sustainability criteria as applied to aviation remains a key issue in determining the types of feedstocks and processes used to provide alternative aviation fuels in the future. The impressive rate at which progress is being made with sustainable alternative fuels illustrates the progress that can be made by a single sector, if there is a willingness to take advantage of opportunities for collective action toward a common goal. Public-private partnerships can help both member states and industry reach their goals to develop and deploy biofuels. ICAO will continue to provide support to states in addressing key barriers to the development and deployment of sustainable alternative fuels towards a goal of enabling the sector to become a lead user of these fuels. Alternative fuels are a key element for inclusion in states' action plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from international aviation. With the agreement of the ICAO Assembly on the voluntary submission of states' action plans to the organization, ICAO's role in environmental issues has shifted from a standards and policy setting phase to a more action-oriented implementation mode. ICAO is providing its member states with the necessary assistance for the preparation, submission, and implementation of action plans. ICAO developed an interactive web interface and held various regional hands-on training workshops. These action plans will enable ICAO to assess the progress in achieving the global aspirational goals of the international aviation sector, as well as identify the implementation barriers and supporting requirements towards the provision of technical and financial assistance to states. The Assembly resolution offers many opportunities to demonstrate to the world how ICAO and its member states intend to achieve the ultimate objective of environmentally sustainable international aviation. ICAO has been working actively towards developing global solutions to address greenhouse gas emissions and other issues relevant to the sustainability agenda. ICAO recognizes its essential role on the path leading to a more sustainable future and is intensely preparing its contribution to the Rio+20 conference in 2012. ICAO will continue to serve as the foundation upon which the response from aviation across the three pillars of sustainable development is built. The continuing democratization of air transport will probably be driven by emerging economies, a global increase in wealth, greater urbanization, a near doubling of major airport hubs for megacities, and more eco-efficient aircraft and viable sustainable fuels. The sustainable development of air transport is key to ensuring access to air transport for generations to come.